What if I told you that most people aren't defeated by life itself, but by the quiet conversations in their own minds? Conversations they never even realize they're having, whispers of inadequacy, of hesitation, of surrender masked as comfort. There exists a truth so profound that it slips past most of us unnoticed, that we are not undone by hardship, we are undone by the way we resist it, by the way we avoid discomfort, as if peace could ever be born from ease. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And yet how often do we live as though the opposite is true? How often do we hand our power to outcomes, to opinions, to fleeting conditions we pretend are permanent? Jung would call this the great shadow of the psyche, the parts of us that crave control over the uncontrollable, that seek to dominate fate itself instead of mastering the only domain we truly possess, our inner world. And yet we scroll, we compare, we chase pleasures that leave us emptier, all while avoiding the sacred tension that exists between who we are and who we could become. What are you really chasing when you wake up craving comfort? Is it peace or is it escape? Because there's a difference. The Stoics knew this, that the soul is not tempered in safety, but in struggle, not in the avoidance of pain, but in the willingness to stand still in the storm and say, "I will not be moved." Imagine for a moment your greatest growth. Was it born from ease, from convenience, or was it born from the moments that cracked you open, that demanded something from you you didn't know you had to give? Seneca practiced deprivation, not out of self-loathing, but out of preparation. He'd wear coarse clothes, sleep on the floor, eat the simplest food, not because he desired suffering, but because he wanted to prove to himself that if everything was stripped away, he would still remain. Do you know what would remain of you if life took what you lean on the most, if love left, if status faded, if health wavered? Who are you without the things you cling to? That is the sacred discomfort, the question you avoid, but the one that holds the key to your freedom. And yet, the modern mind revolts against this because we've been trained to flinch at anything that feels hard. We call it self-care, but sometimes it's just self-avoidance dressed up pretty. But what if you chose differently? What if you ran toward the thing that scares you? What if you trained yourself not to escape the fire, but to stand in it long enough to see that it doesn't destroy you? It reveals you. Epictetus, born a slave, knew this too well. He said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Think about that. Every time you react without intention, you're admitting that you're ruled, not by reason, but by reflex, and that reflex is costly. How many days have you lost to mood swings you didn't control, to reactions that hijacked your peace, to emotions you mistook as truth? But the Stoic path isn't about being unfeeling. It's about being unmoved by the wrong things, about learning to see anger, sadness, even joy, not as orders, but as information. The child reacts. The Stoic reflects what triggers you, what makes you flinch, what shakes your confidence. These are not just personal flaws. They're windows into the parts of you still under construction, and in that awareness is your power, because once you see that your peace is governed not by life but by your lens, you reclaim what was never meant to be outsourced. Yet we do it all the time, giving strangers online old wounds, fleeting opinions, the keys to our emotional thermostat. Imagine, though, standing so rooted that no insult can pull you, no setback can drown you, no praise can inflate you. That's the gravity of stillness, the kind of presence that speaks even in silence. And yet, this isn't easy, because it demands that you stop blaming the world for your chaos, that you own the truth that most of your suffering isn't the event. It's your interpretation of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." What are you estimating incorrectly in your life right now? What are you magnifying that doesn't deserve that much space in your mind? You see, life isn't fair. And the Stoics never pretended it was, but that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is waiting for life to be fair before you decide to be strong. That's why you must become strong before life forces you to be, because there will come a day when life won't ask if you're ready. It'll just arrive. With its storms, its betrayals, its losses. And if you've waited for comfort to prepare you, you'll break. But if you've practiced discomfort deliberately, chosen challenge on your own terms, when the unexpected arrives, it finds you already forged, and that is the secret few ever learn. That struggle is not the enemy. It is the invitation, the training ground where the mind is sharpened, where the soul is stretched beyond its perceived limits, Seneca said. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and that's what most people miss. That courage is not some grand cinematic gesture. It's the quiet decision to keep showing up, to keep standing, to keep moving even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when it feels like no one cares. And yet, that is where you separate, where you distinguish yourself from the masses caught in cycles of reaction and resentment, because you start to see that real power is not in controlling life. It's in controlling your response to it, and that response is where your freedom lives. You can't dictate the weather, but you can choose whether to be drenched or to dance in the rain. You can't control betrayal, but you can control whether it builds walls or boundaries within you. You can't avoid death, but you can choose whether your days are wasted or weighted with purpose. That is the Stoic lens, not passive acceptance, but active engagement with what is. It's the difference between resignation and resilience, but to live this way, you must detach from outcomes. You must love the process more than the result, because the result is a shadow, a reflection you can't grasp. But the process, the daily discipline, the quiet commitments, the choices no one sees, that is tangible. That is yours, Epictetus said. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But freedom isn't the absence of hardship. It's the presence of mastery over self, over urges, over the addiction to validation, over the need for guarantees. Imagine training so thoroughly that your joy isn't held hostage by results, that your peace isn't contingent on praise, that your worth isn't up for debate in the marketplace of opinions. That is what makes you dangerous in the best way, because a person who no longer fears losing is a person who cannot be owned. And yet, most of us live as if we have forever, as if time is on our side, as if there will always be a tomorrow to start living fully. But the Stoics carried death as a constant companion, not to be morbid, but to stay awake, memento mori. Remember, you will die. It sounds dark, but in reality, it's the brightest light you can shine on your life, because it burns away the trivial. It exposes the wasted hours, the cowardice of delay. When you remember death, you live differently. You stop postponing conversations that matter. You stop tolerating mediocrity in yourself and others. You stop waiting for the perfect time that never comes, because you realize this is the time, this is the life, not the next one, not the afterthought, but this one. And when you live like that, urgency becomes your baseline, not anxiety but purpose-driven urgency. And in that urgency, you choose virtue over approval. You stop living for likes, for applause, for empty praise. You start living by a standard, an internal code that needs no witnesses. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter," because it doesn't. It doesn't matter if they understand. It doesn't matter if they clap. It doesn't matter if they stay.